Hey YouTube, Appalachian Survivalist here. I was asked to do another video on the wood boiler that I'm running. I had to do a little bit of maintenance to it, had to replace the stovepipe there, and also had a little bit of a leak on one of my valves. So I went ahead and shut the system down, let it cool down for a couple days, and been just kind of working on it since. I'm not sure, it's looking like I may have a leak, but I just got to keep an eye on it. But anyway, I wanted to just kind of give you a rundown of how this system works. So basically what I've got here is a boiler system. What the boiler does is the fire will go here in the firebox. Just above it is right here. This is roughly, I'm gonna say 15, 20 gallons of water right here in this box above. So this is a water holding tank is essentially what this is, but it's also a boiler tank. So what I've done is I've kind of installed a couple different things on it over time here. What I've got is, of course, power. This runs down, basically my power runs to my blower motor and all that stuff. I'm also going to have power. I've kind of moved some things around so I can control some different things, but my pump basically will pump water into the inlet valve. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll go over each part, but while I'm on the front here, I'll show you. Here's my overflow valve. This is an open system. Somebody did comment and ask if this was an open or closed system. This is an open system, so there's no pressure to this. It's non-pressurized. So what I've got here is an overflow valve. So when I fill this with water, because what happens is every once in a while, the water will either start to evaporate because it's getting too hot, may steam out, whatever the problem is, I got to add water to it. And what'll happen is when I'm filling it, if it starts to overflow or starts to boil over, it'll come out this overflow valve, go down this tube and outside. What I've got here is this is to let me know how much water I have in my system. And I don't know if the camera can pick it up very well. You can kind of see, it's not picking it up very well, but by my naked eye, oh, there we go. Now you can see the water level's about right there. So preferably, and I put these marks here so the wife and the kids can know about where to keep it. As long as it's between this range and this range, we're happy, because that means the water is somewhere along that line in our tank. So when it gets down this low, that's a little concerning, because as we come around here, we don't want it any lower than that, because the lowest point in the tank is here, which is our inlet. This is water inlet. And when I say inlet and outlet, I'm sorry, this is the outlet valve. See, I'm confusing myself. It's the outlet valve. So this is where the water comes out, goes down this line and into the pump. This is a 120 volt pump. This is a circulating pump. All this does is circulates the water over and over and over. So this circulating pump goes out to the house and goes through the heat exchanger, which I will show here in a minute if I can get in there to look at. I've got it opened up to check for water leaks, so I'm going to show you that as well, where it's at on the furnace. But it goes to the heat exchanger and then comes back, and that's where the water valve comes back into the top of the tank and drops the water back down so it can be circulated again. So it's essentially, the gravity allows the water to come down here, come into the pump. The pump then starts a suction, sends it, keeps circulating it that way. What I did find out is, because of the fact that this is an older system, it's clearly got rust, everything else, you have to have a purge valve. And what I do is every day that I put wood in it, once a day, I will open that up and purge out some water for a minute or two. And that gets any of the crud or nasty water out. And what I've done now is I ran that out to outside. That used to be in that bucket. So you can see the crud purge water that I've been running and getting out of there. Now what I had a leak with was this valve right here is my water inlet valve. So this is coming from my water lines. I buried it along with the water that I'm going to be circulating through the house. and to the house and back to the boiler. But this line comes through all that piping as well. It's just along with it, what it does, that keeps it from freezing. Once it comes up through here, it comes in, and all I have to do is turn that on to allow for water to come into the system. That's just for me to fill the system back up and not have to do it by hand. So let's go inside real quick. Okay, so here is the furnace part of the system. And basically what I've got a downdraft furnace, so all the air comes down through the furnace and normally is heated by the heat pump, or down here are some hot coils. They heat up, the air goes down through the vents, obviously comes through the vents, does its thing there. So what I've got now is I've got these lines coming into the heat exchanger. The heat exchanger then is filled with hot water. Then that air flows down through the heat exchanger. And this looks like, it's hard for me to get in there for you to see, but basically this looks like a, looks like I need to replace the tape right there. But this looks like a radiator. And that air comes through there, it's heated air, and then goes through the house. And then I'll show you how the fan goes here. So inlet, outlet, circulating that hot water so that it can come down through there. Okay, and then the way I've got my thermostat set up is I have two thermostats. I have the basic thermostat that comes with the furnace. Everything works on it the way it should. And what I've done is I've run a wire into this thermostat. You have to find where the fan switch is. And essentially what you do is you will then run one wire. Essentially this becomes a switch for this fan switch. So you'll put this unit here, will actually stay on heat or emergency heat depending on what temperature is outside. So then you'll have this on whatever setting you have. You'll crank this down to your emergency temperature. So if my firebox would go out, usually that's about where it is, 66. Because once I get the wood boiler going on in here, we're usually running at 72, no problems. So then what I'll do is I'll turn the fan into the on position, and then I'll set the temperature to what I want it. And then it'll let that fan come on or off depending on what the temperature should be. And that's how I'm running it on there. And maybe down the road I'll do a schematic here. But that's my basic setup that I've got there for the boiler system. If you have any questions, feel free to comment and we'll get that taken care of and get you some answers. But this is what works for me, and it's worked for the past 3 years now. So we're getting ready to come into a cold snap, I think, so definitely be burning with the boiler. Right now I'm just running on heat because I didn't get enough wood for the winter to run all winter. So all right, well, as usual, like and subscribe and comment below. God bless.